It is human nature to make mistakes. But when you are looking to fulfill your American dream of home ownership and you are shelling out a lot of money, you're going to want to minimize those mistakes. The process of purchasing a property, however, starts even before the property is found. This is Juliana too, and from this escrow agent's desk, there's a list of 9 mistakes that can affect this transaction. So let's get to that. Mistake number 1, not thinking the purchase through and getting buyer's remorse. Even before you go to open houses and review the available listings, think this through. Contact your financial counselor. Is this the right time to buy, not only in the marketplace, but also in your financial life? Have you talked this over with all the persons who may have involvement in your decision making? For instance, parents, children, relatives, especially those who may be contributing towards your down payment. If you have a large family, many minds have many ideas. So gather everybody together and make a decision that everyone can agree to and that won't be changed halfway into the transaction. Get on the same page. Then choose one person who will be the main communicator. Mistake number 2, not writing down clearly what you need in your new home. While everyone is together, this is the time for you to list down what you want and what you need. Remember that needing and wanting are not the same thing. If you can get both, that's great. But sometimes you can't. So, what are the number of bedrooms that you want? What about bathrooms? Do you need a separate office? How many stories do you want? Older people prefer not to have to deal with stairs. On the other hand, having younger people, you may want to segregate them to the upper floors. Do you want a swimming pool? Would you prefer a large backyard? This has a lot to do with what type of entertainment you are looking into. And also, you need to consider the maintenance cost. What about that all important school district? And do you need to be close to amenities and to grocery shoppings and shopping malls? Once you have this list together, then you can match it to whatever is on the market. Mistake number 3 is overbidding. When it is a seller's market, and I'll tell you that it's a lot of times it's a seller's market, properties are going to be in demand and there could be a bidding frenzy. For the buyer who did not do their homework, they may be biting off more than they can chew. So, what is your price range? If you have done your homework, you will know how much you can overbid to. Are you aware of the values of the properties in the area that you're looking at? If you overbid, will you be overpriced? Decisions may need to be made immediately, as there could be a potential backup offer with a higher price waiting in the wings. Do you need to go back and trim down the list in mistake number 2, or can you wait? Mistake number 4, underestimating closing costs. In another video that I did, I talked about documentary transfer taxes. And I described how a $40,000 transfer tax cost that the buyer was not aware of and was not taken into account at the closing almost derailed the whole transaction after 2 months. So what are the closing costs? You need to get a good picture of it. So ask your escrow agent to give you a more concise estimate with things like escrow fees, title fees, recording charges. Also, ask your loan agent to give you a more concise estimate of what they are going to charge. Are they going to need tax impounds or insurance impounds? Because if so, it can add a hefty amount to what you need to bring in. Ask your insurance agent for a quotation on coverage that you want. And what about property taxes? And of course, there's that darn transfer tax that is charged in certain cities of the state. Mistake number 5 is not doing the advanced preparation on getting your new loan in place. So if you are getting a new loan, it is very important that the process of obtaining this loan is already in place by the time the offer is being made. Here's a basic example of some of the things that we recommend that the buyer gets in place. First of all, shop for the loan officer and the lender and stay with them until the end. Don't go and change lenders halfway through. What do they need? Provide them with a complete loan application and all the pertinent documents right away. If copies of income taxes are needed, well, be sure that the latest income tax returns have been filed. Alert your employer that you are going to be getting a loan and they are going to need to verify your employment. If you are self-employed, then you're going to need even more paperwork to document your source of income. They may also even want paperwork and background information, tax returns on your company. Be sure that you have all of your down payment funds in a designated account and aged. Now, aged means deposited for a considerable amount of time. If you are getting funds from other sources, like gift funds from other family members and so forth, this information must be given to the loan officer just as soon as possible. Letters and proof of funds and other sources are going to be required. If you snooze, you lose. Sellers may not be willing to wait and allow for any extension of your loan qualification once he enters into a contract, especially if he has other people waiting for another offer with another offer in the wings. So mistake number 6 is changing the loan structure halfway through the transaction. Now, many consumers do not realize that since 2015, under the Dodd-Frank Act and the new TILA-RESPA disclosures, all the lenders have to follow compliance guidelines that protect the consumers. This includes setting timelines that have to be met before you can proceed from one step to another. And if there are any substantive changes made in the application of the new loan, it may trigger a restart of the timeline to the date and that the change is made, which then, of course, extends the time required to get the new loan in place, and it extends the escrow transaction. So it is important that you communicate any change to your loan officer, and you can see in mistake number 7 about communications, because these changes will trigger reissuance of lender disclosure statements. Now, what are we talking about? First of all, we have the changing the down payment and the loan amounts. These will affect, of course, changing the down payment will affect your closing costs. And so those closing costs have to be changed and approved. Adding another party to the transaction and the loan. Getting a monetary credit from the seller or the real estate agent late into the transaction. So for instance, let's say that the seller decides to credit you $5,000 for repairs. This amount is going to have to be disclosed to the lender, and it's going to throw your loan values off. Delays in getting the appraisals, or the appraisal value is lower than the sale price. Ouch. These things can change the loan structure in the transaction. Mistake number 7, wrong information. No matter if it is your real estate agent, your loan agent, or your escrow officer asking, provide the correct information so that there is no delay. This is a very preventable mistake. All it takes is a little attention to some details. For instance, incorrect names. Do you have various different names on different pieces of identification? Do you have middle initials or middle names that you want to use? How do you want your name to show on the future ownership transactions? How about a different vesting? A married couple can use 2 different types of vestings. You might want to look at my title and vesting videos and article, but you must decide on which one is best suited for your needs at the beginning. Don't have a change of mind midway through the transaction because it will incur additional paperwork to the seller and to the lender, and it could possibly be overlooked at the end. Sending loan funds from the account not disclosed to the lender, we talked about this earlier, and then also not disclosing to the loan officer past judgments, bankruptcies, child or spousal supports. Well, it can be surprising to an outsider how much a delay can be caused when the right information is not given. By the time the loan agent, the real estate agent, or the escrow company finds out the mistake, the incorrect information, and then revises it with the correct information, it could be weeks. Mistake number 8 is not providing the required escrow paperwork in a timely manner. And it is even more important than mistake number 7, because your escrow officer is going to rely on this paperwork that you provide to make sure that he or she is on track with the closing. In addition, some of this information may generate other concerns or questions, which, if it is not caught early, is going to be causing a delay. For instance, you don't catch the name or the title or vesting at the same time at the beginning of escrow, or you have a common name and other people's liens are going to be attached to you if we do not clear this item. We always ask for a confidential statement of information, or an SI, to be returned, because what if your social security number traces to a personal judgment that you were not aware of? What if there are others with your exact name? Or, similar names are very common. So we need this SI to clear you of somebody else's liens and debts. We need to know that you are not that John Smith. Having a name like John Smith can create a huge headache for your escrow officer, because you can bet that there's a lot of them out there. So the sooner you return the escrow paperwork, the sooner we can clear up issues that have come up. We do have an article about the SI in the video description below. Mistake number 9, not communicating with your real estate agent, your loan agent, or your escrow officer. All escrow officers have this fear that we are going to be the last to know, and that by the time we know it, it's going to be a mad scramble to find ways to rectify the problem without affecting the transaction. So here are some examples, and you would be surprised how often this happens. First of all, buying a large ticket item while qualifying for a loan, like a car. These are large ticket items, and it can throw your debt to income ratio off and prevent you from qualifying for that particular loan program. How about going on vacation while your transaction is being processed? If we can't find you to get additional documents or to sign other documents, we're going to be in trouble. Having another person sign as power of attorney without giving the power of attorney document to the escrow officer and the lender to review and approve. Now, the power of attorney document is very specific. You can't just draw it up. You need to have specific language in it, and the escrow company, the title company, and the lenders have to approve it. Sending in funds from a source or a bank account that is not disclosed to the lender. I have mentioned this numerous times here, because when this happens, then the funds that came in have to be returned to you. And to do so, we have to create an amendment. And this amendment has to be signed not just by you, but also by the seller. There is a link about this little scenario in the short video, in the video description below. It is always good to contact your escrow officer directly at the opening of the transaction to open a communications channel with them. Provide them with your direct phone number, your email address, your present mailing address. And if you have questions during the transaction, be sure to call them, because they will be happy to answer. Remember, you are the principal in an escrow transaction, and the escrow officer's fiduciary responsibility is to you. In summary, as a buyer in a purchase transaction, your main responsibilities are twofold: getting the funds together to complete the transactions, and number two, if you're getting a new loan, get that in place so that the lender can get you the funds to help you the transaction. Any mistakes could cost you time and money, and sometimes you have to pay good money to buy more time. Well, my t-shirt for today is my love t-shirt because the Beatles said it all correctly. All we need is love. Here is a copy of my t-shirt for today. There are other articles that you can download and look at pertaining to the various bullet points that we have talked about. And if you happen to be selling a property, be sure you check out my list of top 7 mistakes that a seller should also avoid. Thank you. This is Juliana, and I shall see you in the next video.